Hi, welcome to Market Chat with Brenda and Lori. I'm Brenda Alfano, mortgage advisor, and this is
I'm Lori De Silva with Remax Elite. I specialize in residential purchases and sales of homes.
today we have a guest, Kris Jackson with ProStar Insurance. Welcome, Kris.
Thank you.
In a previous show, we talked about we touched a little bit on what you do once you're under contract on a purchase. One of the main things you do is get insurance. So we brought Kris in to give us, we gave a little bit on the last one, a little bit about insurance, but we want to talk to the expert who can help us with this. So let's get going.
So one of my questions, Kris, is as a first-time home buyer, what should they be looking for in an insurance policy?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing that I recommend is when people are buying a house for the first time, people don't think about actually looking at the value of the house. So the reconstruction cost of the house.
Right.
And when you think of insurance, you oftentimes don't think about, well, what is the insurance covering?
Right.
So my first thing to point out is, well, insurance is meant for a catastrophe. If something major happens, you want to make sure that you have coverage on that house for the right value.
Right.
So the first piece, it's called reconstruction cost. It's just the cost to rebuild the house, what it costs in today's dollars. So that's a big piece. Number two, simply the roof is a big one right now.
Yes.
I've heard that.
Yeah, insurance companies are really tightening down with roof quality and the age. So the roof type, that comes into play. There's oftentimes not a lot you can do. If you have to replace a roof, it's expensive, but knowing going into the purchase that you may have to think about this in the future, it could cost you $700 in increased premium having an older roof. Or if it's not in good quality, getting it cleaned is important.
Wow, I did not know that.
I did know that they were cracking down on, we've probably got it from your email you sent us, but I did know that they are cracking down on age of roofs.
Yep.
Like, so where's the cut, where are they starting to say it's a 20-year roof? What are they saying? 15?
It depends on the company. So
Okay.
being an independent broker, we have certain companies that we know we can't quote with if they're older than 15 years.
Okay. Good to
That's
know.
kind of a number that we're looking at right now. So that's probably going to be the tightest that we're going to see, because even 15 years for a roof is it's pretty new. I mean, if you take care of it, that could be a good roof.
Yes, yes. Oh shoot, something you said made me think of something, but it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. I'll mention one other thing while I'm thinking of it.
Sure, please do.
So I know when I bought my first house, we waived the inspection. So that was something, it was competitive in the market. It was great at the time.
Like so many people.
Right. So now looking at the claims and how they're affecting homeowners insurance, if you get an inspection, it's advised to talk to the inspector and actually see if there were prior claims on the house.
Oh.
Because prior claims, especially if it's a water claim, that can affect your insurance rate even if it wasn't your claim.
Oh, wow.
So
it's like Carfax for cars.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it might lead you to knowing, hey, there was a pipe that burst, maybe the plumbing was bad. So it could show that there's potentially other issues with the house.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
I remember what I thought about. You mentioned that, and I think this is super important, because I talk to my clients about this all the time. You mentioned that you're basically a broker, insurance broker. Can you explain what that means and why that's helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. So being an independent company, we're not an insurance company per se. So we partner with insurance companies, all top A-rated companies that we choose. And then we are essentially in your corner as far as a consumer. So all the communication goes through us as the broker, and you don't actually have to call your insurance company, the 1-800 number, wait on hold. You call a local company, we can service the policy, we can make policy changes, we can add vehicles, all that stuff is handled in-house. So.
Great. I think we mentioned a little bit about that too in one of our previous videos when we were talking about this subject. So I think it bears reiterating about being able to get a hold of somebody live when you need them. It's really important.
Yeah. Exactly.
So on the lending side of the transaction, so what do you see lenders looking for in the policy that you're issuing to your clients for home insurance?
There's a few things that I run across. First being it's called RCE. So it's basically the reconstruction cost that we just talked about.
Okay.
When you're getting approved or qualified for a loan, you typically need to cover the house insurance-wise for what it's worth. So lenders aren't going to want to insure a house for $200,000 if it's going to cost $400,000 to rebuild.
No wonder why.
Yeah. So it's big to actually go in and make sure that the reconstruction cost is to where it should be, or a little bit more. That's not going to hurt. So that's the first piece. Number two is premium. So a question I get all the time, or I ask, is asking about the debt to equity ratio.
Okay.
So if the home buyer
I see what you're saying.
needs to get qualified for a certain loan, there may be a limit to where we need to keep the cost of the insurance down. So there's little things that we can do as a broker to reduce that cost. You know, one being playing with the deductibles. That's an easy one.
And okay, it opens up two questions to
Yeah.
me too. So that is great. I have never in my 17 years had an agent ask me about how's my debt to income ratio, because I have to play that myself. I have to wait
Right.
for the policy to come in and go, uh-oh, we're in trouble,
Yep.
right? And then have them go shop elsewhere if they went with a one-off,
Yep.
right? So that's good to know,
Yes.
really good to
yes.
know. The other thing was the deductible.
Mhm.
I can't remember, and I'm honest about this, do we ever have we as the lender have an issue with how much the deductible is?
I see it sometimes. So
Okay, that's what I was
5,000 to 2,500 is kind of it's the point where if I get the binder request and I see that there's a limit that you need to keep it below that, it usually doesn't come into play, and it's usually something we can adjust
Okay.
if need be, especially to close on a loan. But it is something that I see once in a while.
And do you ever advise your clients about the wisdom of having a super high deductible?
Yes, really good question. So that's obviously depending on each buyer. So
Right.
everyone's got their cost threshold that they need to kind of pay attention to. But we talk to them about the education behind what this means. What is a deductible? When would you have to pay it?
Right.
What is the difference between 2,500 and 5,000? And so some people need to understand that if a claim happens, can they afford to pay the $5,000 deductible? And look at the cost difference between the two. So maybe it only saves you $200 a year to have a smaller deductible. It's client dependent, and that's
Okay,
a conversation
good
that we
to know.
have.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Absolutely good to know.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also wanted to touch a little bit on umbrella policies. Now, what exactly are there, and why would a homeowner want an umbrella policy?
I love that you asked that, because
Okay.
a lot of people don't actually know what umbrellas are.
Yeah.
And it's not the one you hold above your head, right?
Exactly.
So it's the same idea though. So an umbrella policy, they're simple. It's just an extension of your liability coverage.
Okay.
So when you're talking about auto insurance or homeowners insurance, you have a liability coverage, which is going to say you have $500,000 in liability protection. That
Right.
covers you for any damages that you cause that you're liable for.
Right.
Okay. An umbrella just extends that coverage
Okay.
by typically $1 million.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Oh, only
So,
a million. Wow.
Same thing, driving a car, you know, your coverage is going to be, let's say, 100, 300. That's 100,000 per person, 300 per accident.
Right.
An umbrella just extends $1 million above that.
Oh, okay.
So it covers your auto insurance, your homeowners, if you have an RV, a boat, motorcycle, it extends liability. And it's important for homeowners because you now have this asset. You're
Right.
a first-time homeowner, you own this chunk of property, and if you get in a car accident and someone sues you,
Someone's gonna come after you.
all of a sudden you have this asset that you want to
Yeah.
protect. So it's a big piece. Umbrellas are very inexpensive for what they are, but a lot of
Right.
people are kind of scared to have that extra policy, or they don't want to pay for something new.
So that makes me think, because I know I've asked this question, what is the difference then between an umbrella, which we just learned what it was, and an addendum to your policy? Why would people get
Ah.
addendums to their policy? Is
It-
that the right word?
Yeah, and
Okay.
it depends on, there's endorsements or addendums you can
Okay.
add on. It depends on what it is that you're covering. So an addendum on a policy is going to be policy specific.
Okay,
Okay, so if you have an addendum on your house, that's going to give you extra coverage for that house. If an umbrella is also going to cover automobile accidents,
Okay.
and that's the big one. It's going to extend over all underlying policies.
so if you have, say, you're an art collector,
Mhm.
you would probably get
An
an
addendum or an endorsement.
Okay, okay.
Yep. You can actually endorse
Because
the
you're only
personal
limit,
property.
you gotta limit what you're gonna cover the contents for
Yep.
the house, right?
Yep.
Because that's a big part of it too, is the
Right.
contents
Yes.
of the house, not just rebuilding the house, but that's great, I have a house, but nothing to put in it.
Yep.
You know, so, I think that a lot of people don't realize that,
Right.
I mean, maybe they have a lot of jewelry, maybe
I
their
was
husband
gonna
is very
say-
kind to them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I had a friend whose house was broken into, and they stole all of her jewelry, all of it, and she did not have anything extra on her insurance to
Yep.
cover that.
Yep.
So how does somebody, getting even deeper, how does someone tell you, insurance agent person,
Mhm.
company, what they have in their house?
Really good. So it's usually going to be a question that's spurred on by the agent. So that's a question that I would ask is,
Okay.
okay, we're going to cover your house. We're going to go through, here's the dwelling coverage. Here's your personal property coverage. Is that enough coverage? You have 200,000. Covers all of your stuff, furniture, clothing, jewelry, firearms, electronics, everything.
Right.
Now, on homeowners policies, you have limits to some of those coverages.
So I saw it, okay.
So there's jewelry, fine art, rugs, fur, firearms. Those are some of the pieces that we commonly see people add addendums or endorsements to.
Oh, okay.
So typically, you have about $2,500 depending on the policy.
So that's not very much
It's
if
not
you
very
were a
much.
collector.
Right.
Yeah, or
Of
if you've got a
something.
beautiful ring, like my wife, we endorse our
Right.
wedding ring
Right.
on the policy because
Makes
it's
sense.
more than the limit, and it also covers it for theft when you do that. So it's
Wow.
really good to just have this
Very good to know.
conversation
Yeah.
with the homeowner.
Well, it's just like everything, there's so much more to it than we know.
Mhm.
Something else just popped in my head, if I might, because I've heard this before from another insurance agent, dogs.
Mhm.
I hear there's 5 breeds, at least,
Oh.
that are an issue.
Yeah.
Is that
Yes.
true?
And again, it's also company specific. So
Right.
that is also one of the questions that we would go over is, do you have any pets? Do you have any exotic animals? Dogs, actually, like you said, there's aggressive breeds that are prone to biting. Those breeds with certain companies can be excluded, or they could disqualify you from coverage.
So that question,
Oh.
because I have a client
Mhm.
at one time who got one of those dogs.
Mhm.
And I said, does your insurance company know? Well, no, of course not. So, but what would happen then to
Mhm.
that homeowner
Right.
if that dog bit, or worse, someone else
Yeah.
on their property?
Couple things could happen. It depends on how long they've been with the company, the relationship, but that would be an invalid insurance policy. So if they didn't provide that information to the insurance company that they had an excluded breed, they could either not be covered on a claim that's filed, or they could get dropped.
Oh,
It just
gosh.
depends on how it's handled. So, very important. I had a client just
Don't
text me
lie
the
to
other
your
day.
agent.
Yeah, she asked, we're thinking about getting a German Shepherd.
That's one
Great
of them.
dog.
That's
Yeah.
one of them, right?
Yeah, but that is one of them with certain companies.
Right.
So I said, you get your puppy, that's great, but I'm gonna look at some other options for different companies and see if we can find you a competitive rate that will
Yeah.
be okay.
Which is funny. I've heard of that with friends that were looking to rent
Mm-hmm.
about
Same
the
thing,
breed
yeah.
of dog,
Liability.
but I didn't know about homeowners
Yeah.
insurance.
It
so,
probably has the same thing about the insurance policy
Yep.
coverage of the landlord.
yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
sure. Yeah. So anything, you had another question, I think.
No, I think that was it for me.
Okay.
But I guess I think you might have been you were gonna touch on this anyway. But what are some things that set your company apart from others? And-
ProStar, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, having conversations like this is huge. So it's always amazing to me talking to prospects, clients that are coming in that are thinking about switching to ProStar that have never had this kind of conversation, asking these detailed questions.
Right.
This is what we do on a daily basis, and this is what we enjoy. I'm proud to say that I'm in the business of making people's day. I just happen to be good at insurance.
Oh,
Good.
So that's the way that we approach every client. We're real people. We give these real answers, and we try to do so real fast. And that's what makes us who we are. So
Good.
it's a referral-based business for us, and we're very involved in the community, and I think the community sees that. So it's wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
I learned stuff today.
I learned a lot today, and I appreciate you speaking today. And hopefully, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. Let us know. Or if there's other topics that you want to touch
Yeah, that'd be
on,
great.
let us know. Like and subscribe to our channel,
Your
and
YouTube channel, yep. And
happy you joined us.
yeah, we'll see you next time. And again, thanks so much, Kris, for
Thanks for
joining us.
having me.
Yeah.